What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy, Sean Spencer, one half of that dynamic duo that is Let's Talk Football. You see the hat. You know what day it is. It's Wednesday, baby. Happy Hump Day. And I'm here with my guy. In steamy South Carolina, Will Kramer. What up, Will?
You should be jealous. Call it steamy all you want. We're wearing shorts right now. I heard you guys are going to have some good weather tomorrow. It's beautiful right now. Spring, I would say spring has sprung, but it's a little early. But yeah, man, It's been a while. Yeah. I don't think we went on after the Super Bowl. How was your Valentine's Day?
It was pretty good. Good. You know, I didn't have any shows or any things that I needed to do, so I got to give Catherine full attention. She appreciated that.
Yes.
Definitely did the flowers thing, and then this weekend was our extended Valentine's because we both had to work during the week. So this weekend we ended up going to the beach, which it was great. It was Virginia Beach. It was nice. It was a little chilly. To your point, we don't have that warmth, but the hotels were accordingly because it's off season and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it was all good. Obviously, up until the last day where I talked to you. Not to go too deep into it, ladies and gentlemen, but we were at the beach. We helped a friend move, Anton's girl. We helped her, move some things, and we were like, you know what? We went and got something to eat. We're like, man, it was getting dark. We said, do you want to go on the road? I said, you know what? Let's just relax. Let's just get a hotel. The next day was President's Day. We didn't have to be back early. So we relaxed. We parked the car. We went into the hotel. I took a shower, and our phone rang in the room. So we're like, oh, okay, what's up? And it just so happened to be the front desk person. And they were like, hey, just want to make sure everything was good. Make sure you got in okay. I guess Kat and her had struck up a conversation. So I was like, oh, that was really sweet of you. Okay, cool. Well, about 5 minutes later, the phone rings again. And we're like, oh, snap. Okay, she's really hospitable. What's going on now? Well, she says, your car was backed into. And looks like a hit and run because they backed into it. And the guy was like, I'll be back. And then darted off down the road. So, yeah. And then furthermore, we were in the parking lot from the hotel, which is private property. So it wasn't technically considered a hit and run because they couldn't find the dude. And a lot of the information they got was, I don't want to say bogus, but it didn't help a lot. But they were staying in the hotel, so we did get the address, the number. The cops ended up coming. It ended up working out perfectly. Shout out to Geico, and I believe her name is Jillian, that just absolutely helped us. Called every single body shop in Virginia Beach to try to figure out, who can get the car in. She was able to she had Geico, so she was able to get a rental car and everything like that. But we had to, basically go through every different avenue and ended up getting it taken care of. Long story short, we ended up getting home about Monday evening, probably about 8 o'clock. Okay. You know what I mean? But in the grand scheme of things, that all could have been a lot different.
Did I hear you say that the person that backed up into you was staying at the hotel too?
Yes, the family was staying. We think it might have been a situation. So here's another part about it. So I was hot because I was sitting here like, dude, we just got here. Like I was like, I really want to go home, but we had just eaten like a lot of seafood. So I was kind of like, I'm full. I just want to relax.
You and that seafood.
Hey, come on, man. If we're going to be at the beach, I'm going to get something out the daggone water. Come on now. So I was just sitting here blown. And we were on the 5th floor and I'm just looking out over the balcony looking. Some dude. So when we got downstairs to first talk to the lady, there was a guy that opened the door for us. And me being hospitable, I said, hey, man, what's going on, dude? How you feeling? And, no response. He just looked at me, didn't even nod his head or anything, just kept the door open. We walked in and he walked away. So when I went back upstairs and I'm just kind of going in and out of the hotel, and I go upstairs and I'm looking down kind of at the car to see if the police are still there. And I see this dude kind of creep around and it's the same guy. And he took a picture of the front of the car and then kind of walked away. So I ran downstairs to be like, yo, like, what's good? He was long gone by that point. apparently they said like they went to the room and, family might have had a little alcohol in the joint, and the cops think it was a drunk driver that didn't want to get caught up in it. So, but I say that to say it could have got far. It could have been far worse, but it ended up not being that bad. We were able to get the rental. She, obviously had to pay the deductible and everything, but she was able to get the rental and all that stuff taken care of. So we're back. She's got a nice Hyundai Santa Fe, which she's bigger car. It's a bigger, SUV, and it's nice. Got a little sunroof and everything. They hooked us up. I want to shout out one more guy, the guy at Enterprise. I think his name is Damien. I want to shout you out, man. Helped us out, was great all the way to the end. And then at the end, he was like, I'm being really nice, but I shouldn't be nice. I was like, why? What's going on? And so Kat had a Michigan State, and I had my Carolina stuff. So he goes to Kat, and he says, at least your team is good. I don't know about his team. So I'm like, oh, hold up, partner. Who's your team? He said, it's Duke. And I was like, all right, we got to go, Kat. Time to go. It's over, all right?
But he wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
I saw your post today. Y'all on the verge of not making the tournament?
Oh, my God. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to rock my stuff.
You were in the championship game last year,
I'm going to rock my stuff. I cannot understand. We were preseason number ones. We lost one player. One player. I can't explain it. I don't understand it.
Wow.
We're rough. And we're losing close ones. And we're 8-8 in the ACC. And the ACC ain't even that great this year. Like the ACC is really kind of poor this year. We've got a game again. We have games tonight against not Notre Dame. We just lost Notre Dame. I can't remember.
No, you do. You play Notre Dame tonight, don't you?
We play.
I think you do.
Is that what it is? Okay. So we got Notre Dame, and then we got believe Virginia this weekend, and then we got Duke, and then we got the ACC tournament. We have got to win at least go far in the ACC tournament to get a bid. I think we'll get a bid higher, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. But look, man, we gotta go move on, man. We gotta come here to talk football because my daggone Tar Heels. That's talk about something that's depressing, man. Will, we're Washington Football Weekly. We appreciate y'all being here, hearing a story about our weekends and everything. Actually, real quick, how was your Valentine's Day?
Oh my gosh, man! two kids. It's a train wreck. They came back all hopped up on sugar and then crashed and were tired and fussy. And we learned a couple of years ago to make Valentine's Day as easy as possible. We celebrated Saturday. We went to a nice lunch, real nice lunch. And that was a lot of fun because that Tuesday was just a mess.
Yep.
I mean, we're talking like we're doing like either maybe Chick-fil-A or leftovers is what our Valentines are. Yep. We used to make nice stuff that would enjoy it. But even with the two boys right now and the class parties, no.
No, I understand. I get you. Well, shout out to Trish. Shout out to every one of the people that had a Valentine's or didn't have a Valentine's. Hope it went well. But yes, like Will said, we are back after being gone for just a little bit. And we're back with some great news. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you know, but firepower. We just got firepower in the form of a coach. This man, couple weeks ago, last time we saw him, in fact, was helping to hoist a trophy for the Kansas City Chiefs, and now he is a Washington Commander. Eric Beiniemy is hired as our offensive coordinator and assistant coach for Washington. Will, how do you feel about this, man? I think you might have frozen. Well, look, I will go ahead and say how I feel about it first. I am absolutely excited. I'm elated. Are you back with me, Will?
I am. It comes in and out right now. But you go first.
Yeah. I'm excited about this. I'm excited. I'm somebody that had Eric Beiniemy's card back when he was playing in the league. You know what I mean? I remember him back then. He has worked his way up from being on the staff with Ray Childress is coaching in Minnesota. He was helping a lot of different places. Obviously, most recently at Kansas City. I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic because you're very thrilled about the hope that this could potentially, that could be the piece. We got a couple things to work with, a couple more moves over this offseason, and we could really, we can really take it over the top. But then where I say I'm cautiously optimistic, and we'll get into this a little bit later, he is coming from the Chiefs, who have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, both who are matchup problems. And, they had Tyreek Hill up until this year, and then they were able to do it without Tyreek Hill and with a hobbled Mahomes. So it does make you wonder, is that him? Is it Bieniemy? He's the one, or is it the Andy Reid folklore and all thing like that? So I'm interested to see what he brings to the table, and we're going to dive in. But just first, initial thought, when you heard it, Eric Beiniemy hired to Washington. Will, what were you thinking, man?
Well, I'm surprised. I was very surprised and pleasantly surprised. I'm going to go back and call myself out, because when we first talked about Scott Turner getting fired, I was on the be careful, grass isn't always greener. And I really was thinking that we were looking at the Pat Shermers or the Ken Zampesis of the world, because it's like, who wants to come in with a 5th round pick and say, yeah, I'm going to stamp my name to that team, So the fact that he came over, I mean, I'm very surprised, that this is where he wanted to land. So I'm very excited because, I think Ron hit a home run. It was said a couple weeks ago, they're like, well, look out for Eric Beiniemy in Washington. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
No way. And so we're going to get into it. So I don't want to spoil everything, but I think you have to be excited. I think there's going to be some accountability. It's an opportunity. I mean, I understand the folks who are upset that he had to come all the way, take another offense coordinator job, and absolutely. And, but it's good for us. I'll say that. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But I mean, to your point, though, I mean, look, we did cap ourselves with the Zampesis and with, with Thomas Brown and, with these guys that we thought, okay, maybe they'll take a shot on us. Maybe they'll say, hey, we'll come to Washington. Maybe you got some good players. We'll see what happens. But we all knew there was that cloud of Dan Snyder. And I'm not going to go because we don't have that really on the agenda tonight. But the fact that we get such a big name guy that's coming from success, literally 2 weeks ago, coming from success in Kansas City, I mean, is that a good sign for things to come? Does that mean, potentially Dan is seriously on his way out? Because I don't know. I truly doubt if Dan said, I'm here and I'm not, he's 86 in the whole thing with him selling a team. If he was here for good, I don't know that we get somebody high profile like this.
I feel the same way you do. Like there's other things happening here that we're not fully aware of, because I feel the exact same way, where there's no way he would come here or Andy Reid would say, you should go to Washington, knowing what, unless he's trying to completely get rid of this guy off his staff, like he did with Donovan McNabb. That would be the only time that I would think that Reid would be saying, go to Washington. It's a good opportunity for you. Right. So I'm with you. There's got to be. And who knows, if you want to go really down that rabbit hole, maybe he knows if 1 year here, I'm a guaranteed head coach. Maybe he knows, hey, Ron Rivera may not be the new owner's chosen one. And so I may be the head coach in a year here. So I don't know. Maybe the NFL has some deals saying you will be a head coach. Just take this over right now. I don't know. But regardless, like you said, we got ourselves an experienced veteran coordinator who's been around success and been around championship teams. And he's now in charge of the entire offense for us. And that's the part that needs some fixing. So that's amazing.
Oh, I love that. And for a long time, we've been asking, and I went back to a couple of the episodes from like the round table and our show and everything years ago. A long time ago, we were sitting here year after year. Bieniemy's not getting a job. He's not getting a coaching job. What's wrong with him? Maybe we were asking the wrong questions. Maybe he was waiting. He was waiting to come to Washington, baby. He had to get a second ring.
That's got to be it.
Now, because think about it. Let's go down this road. He goes to Washington. He already got 2 Super Bowls. He's been to 3. He worked with Andy Reid. He worked with who people are saying, Patrick Mahomes, the GOAT, the next GOAT or whatever. He's worked with success. Now it's like, okay, this is a team that is on the edge. We get a good owner in here. We get a solid line. They build things like they had in Kansas City. We could take that step in an NFC East that, although has great players, there's a lot of musical chairs with the coaches. We know Philly lost their defensive coordinator. Dallas lost Kellen Moore. The Giants, we'll see what they do next year. So, this he might see something outside of the firing of the Dan Snyder selling team, but also this might be the up and coming. We were last in the division this past year, but watch out.
Let's sure hope so. Man, that would be nice.
But look, let's move right into this. And I'm gonna come to you first on this. How does this affect us? Let's actually break it down. We talked about his success and continued success out there, but there's also, we don't have a Patrick Mahomes yet. Not willing to say Sam Howell's that yet. We don't have a Patrick Mahomes yet. We don't have a Travis Kelce that can take over a game. And up until last year, they had a Tyreek Hill. We don't have a burner like that could literally be 10, 15 yards past the defender. You know what I mean? So how does this affect us?
Yeah, I mean, I think the very first thing, and Anton mentioned it when he said, about how so much success from this man will impact the locker room, is that's the first thing. It's accountability. The thing that I was excited about Scott Turner was the fact of who his dad is, and his dad is established. Not that, well, maybe his dad will be in his ear the whole time. Now you've got someone who's going to hold these players accountable, and he's got a backbone to say, listen, this is how we had success with it.
Here we go.
I know you may think I'm being harsh, but I'm also showing you how we win or how to win. And I think there's already going to be mutual respect from that, because it's going to be, this guy has been around such a successful program for the last 5 years. They're going to listen to him,
Right.
So that the accountability, I think, is going to be the first one. I'm real curious from, there's obviously a lot of pieces that we need to retool with the offensive line, but it's going to be real interesting to see what he does with this offense. I mean, we've got a really good set of receivers, and I'm sure he sees that as our focal point. I think it's going to go away from what Ron says is, we're a running football team. Kansas City wasn't like that. Mm-mm. And not that we need to try and turn Sam Howell into Patrick Mahomes, but it could be more of the newer age thinking that we all like, where the pass is going to set up the run. We're going to do short, quick passes. We're going to utilize our backs and our tight ends on routes to extend to get that 5, 6, 7 yards. And now we're on second and short and we're running the ball. So I think that's going to be interesting to just kind of see how he creates this. I'm most interested right now, though, is to see how does he utilize our running back room, because this is a stark contrast to what they had in Kansas City. Yeah. And in Kansas City, they weren't featuring running backs the way Ron has kind of said that he wanted to, and how in the last couple of years, Washington has been successful when we ground and pound and control the ball. And that hasn't really been Kansas City's MO. So it's like, okay, so what is he going to do with the guy like Brian Robinson? Does he see that there's more out of him than what is already being made? What does it do for a guy like Gibson, who we talked about early in the season was being utilized as a weapon? And does this help out his career even more? Because he's got a coach who says, I have a weapon, let me get him the ball. So I think it's going to be really intriguing to see how he takes some of our pieces that are talented and how he utilizes them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about, the fundamentals, attention to detail, and him being a passionate guy. That's one of the things I've been hearing a lot about, is that he's very passionate, and he will get riled up. He'll get in your face, but it's because he sees things and he sees them going a certain way. He's seen, like you said, them have success in Kansas City working this way. So he knows, what type of things work. And the fact that this guy has championship caliber, like you said, you know what I mean? Coming from the Chiefs, they just won, being in the last 4 or 5 AFC championships, winning, 3 of the last 4 AFC championships, going to the Super Bowl to win 2 Super Bowls. I mean, that's huge. We touted Jeff Zanina a year ago because he brought that championship mindset, that culture, being from the Rams. This can only help us with a team that, yes, I mean, we're teetering, but there were some games. You look at that first game with Carson Wentz where he threw 4 touchdown passes. That offense was explosive. That second half in Detroit, we put up, 27 points, and, we were hitting them deep a lot. I think that he's going to have fun being able to work with a young guy and the weapons that he has, because another weapon that we talked about Gibson. This will, I think, open up Brian Robinson's game. And you mentioned that, he doesn't use running backs like maybe the Titans or the Colts, where this is our bell cow, this is our guy. And as we saw towards the end of the season, obviously, the gunshot wounds and everything else contributed, but Brian Robinson was worn out.
Yes.
He was tired. This could take those snaps away from him till he is more effective. Then you add in McKissick. You bring this guy back and get him fully healthy. Then it kind of reminds me of like Andy Reid had a running back that torched us in the screen game for years named Bryant Westbrook. It kind of reminds me of that, where it kind of gets these guys out in space, but it designs plays for them to come in. And I mean, one of the things that I saw in the Super Bowl, the misdirection was just, it was on point. It literally had you going with the flow one way, and they had the McKinnons, they had the Pachecos coming up underneath. And then at the end of the day, I don't know if you saw it late in the Super Bowl, they had a pro set formation, and they pulled both the guards, and they ran like the old school sweep like the Green Bay Packers did. So you're bringing back the old school run when it's necessary, but then you're also getting these guys out on the edge, getting them in space, getting them in beneficial situations with a one-on-one with a linebacker, you know what I mean, or a safety, where these guys can make big plays, man. And I think he's going to bring some of that to us, to where we don't have to sit here and focus on taking the top off. We can sit here and needle you down the field, have 3rd and 3s and get ahead of the chains and slowly, and then when we need it, hit you with that special. Hit you with something that's really going to turn the tide. So I love that he's bringing that to us. But I think it's going to be, it remains to be seen, the running back room. Because we have a couple guys in there that, that we could say maybe Brian Robinson's our bell cow. But to be quite honest with you, we are built for a running back by committee. We have 3, I'd say, average to above average running backs, and Robinson and McKissick and Gibson, that are threats, not only just running the ball up the middle, but also in the pass game. Those are the things. And what can he unlock from Brian Robinson? Like you said, we don't know what his receiving prowess is. We know what his running is. What can he unlock in these guys? So that is what I am very excited to see him. And I think he's going to bring that kind of professionalism and that championship and that, that first day when he comes in there with that ring and be like, you want one of these? Follow me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So
I agree.
Well, so I mean, we're gonna see how it is, but I mean, and we've talked about this, but let's go. Like, what are you excited about? For me, this is an old running back. So when I used to go back and coach, my favorite of what I did was work with the running back. That's what I knew, and I loved it. I love because you can see in these guys who wants to learn how to be better and who thinks, oh, I'm the greatest because I've been the greatest my whole life. You know what I mean? I feel like he will get those guys out. You know what I mean? One of the things that I really like about him, and I mentioned it before, is that attention to detail. He's worked with guys like Jamal Charles in his prime. We've seen that. Adrian Peterson coming out of college. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like even these other guys that we've just seen, Pacheco, McKinnon. McKinnon has been around the league, Will. You know this. Any fantasy owners know this. Right. He gets around the league, and he has a couple weeks during the year where he dominates, but he's not a number one guy. But in that offense, you take McKinnon and you take Pacheco out of that offense, the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, they don't win that game because they ran the ball and controlled the clock in that second half. And you're just sitting here like, I'm not going to draft these guys number one, but
right.
you would be good. You'd be better off if you have them on your team. And just to see, like you said, he'll take anybody. He'll take anybody, and as long as they can fit the scheme and run it, I am super, super excited about that. Obviously, also the championship pedigree. He's been around. And I'm just thrilled because I am somebody that's very attention to detail, especially with all this stuff that we do. I'm very much like, hey, it has to be done this way. I understand how you see it, but it's going to be done this way. And I get excited and animated about it. It's because I love this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I see in him. That's what I've heard from people. They all say that he's really into it. He's into it. He's really like going really down to that fine new mini detail. Go to the Super Bowl play. Chiefs are driving down the field. He's got a little bit of time left on the clock. They run a play and they have McKinnon. McKinnon is running. He's running down to the end zone and he has an opportunity to score a Super Bowl touchdown. Tell his kids and grandkids, what does he do? He slides. A lot of those players, and even Mahomes is saying, that's something that Bieniemy works with us in practice. That's something that he gets called the church mode. These plays and these situations that may never occur, may only occur one time in the entire season, but that one time, it's muscle memory. You know it.
Yeah.
You've done it before over and over and over. So I am super excited for the running backs, the position we just talked about. And I want to see what he does with my guy. I want to see what he does with Sam. The last guy he had was a young Patrick Mahomes. Yes, they had Andy Reid, but as you've seen, Patrick Mahomes and him were working one-on-one, and he wasn't afraid to get in Patrick Mahomes' face a couple times this year. And I like that because he's saying you're not too high, you're not too low for me to sit here and talk because I know the way things need to be. So I'm excited for what he brings, especially between the running backs and the quarterback.
Absolutely. You touched on the part that I'm most excited about. And anytime you have a young quarterback, that is going to make things even more exciting to kind of see what someone can do. But if you kind of look at, there's some parallels here. Kansas City drafted a quarterback and he sat for a year. And then they brought him in year 2 and they found a way to make him successful. And now Washington's doing the same thing. And, I hope that he had a chance, and I'm sure he did, to watch and see what did they do with Patrick Mahomes in the beginning to make him start off so hot, so comfortable. Yeah. It had to be more than just talent. It had to be the ability to make the game easier for him. And that's exactly what you want for a young – I'm just going to call Sam Howell a rookie quarterback next year because it's his first year starting, And so that's really important. They talk about how Kansas City utilizes RPO game. Howell can run that. He ran that in college. Let's play to his strengths.
Where did you go to college at, Will? Where did you go to college?
Yes.
Let's go.
Didn't they lose in his last bowl game? Didn't they get their butt?
All right. Move on, Will.
They talk about how they utilize, short, quick passing games, the creativity, the different shuffle passes they would use with Travis Kelce and, just quick games that we talk about, ways to make the quarterback, have quick routes that he has to figure out, just making the decisions out there where he's not having so much going through his head that he's overthinking while out there and he can just go out and play. So I think it's going to be really interesting to watch the dynamic and how he grooms Sam Howell and works with him. I think it may be a little bit of a slow process. Like, I don't think we're all going to be excited week 1, but I think we need to recognize those first 4 games could be a really learning opportunity because, Sam's got to learn a new offense. He's got to learn a whole new terminology now, so there's going to be some building blocks with that. I read something today or heard something that really got me excited. Apparently, Bieniemy was their clock management guy in Kansas City. And how often have we complained about how we handle the 2-minute warning in our timeouts?
Yep.
And the fact that what we noticed this past year was we don't ramp it up unless we get a first down. And then we say, okay, time to go. And at that point, we've wasted 1 minute and 40 seconds, out there. It's like we had the ball at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and now we've just drained all that clock because we're taking forever. So I think you're going to see, I'm really hoping we see some new age thinking on how to use the 2-minute warning and your timeouts and how to utilize the fact that there's a chance to build momentum, get points and get the ball back, if we receive the kickoff, in the second half, that type of stuff. But utilize this more new analytics way of thinking where it's you're maximizing possessions, maximizing opportunities. So hearing that got me really excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, Ron needs that so bad.
Yes.
So that could be a positive. And like I said, I am just most excited about the fact that he's bringing credibility to the building immediately. And he's coming from a place who's not just done it at a championship level, but they've said, okay, we've got a young quarterback. Okay, we need to make sure that he's comfortable. Let me show you how we're going to do it. And he lays it out.
Oh yeah. And one more thing I wanted to touch on, going back to the attention to detail, is that, one thing we looked at in the Super Bowl, they were down 24-14, with the exception of that, scoop and score. That was 24-7. That offense was a bit pedestrian in that first half. They came out in that second half and really changed the whole dynamic of the game. Started running the ball more, started eating up the clock, started keeping the Eagles offense off the field. And one thing that we noticed when we played them, that whole second quarter, they were on the bench. By the time they gave back in late in the second quarter, they were cold to the point where A.J. Brown wasn't getting catches. Devontae Smith wasn't getting loose. So those adjustments they made in the second half, I think that's going to play a huge role for our team, especially in this coming year with a young quarterback. We've got a young O-line, certain young O-linemen are young. We got running games that, it's a lot of younger guys, young wide receivers. We are going to get, like you said, it's going to be a slow start. I can see it being 3-5 early in the year, kind of like how RG3's career started, where it was 3-6, and then we hit stride. But I think that's what it's going to be, where it's going to be picking up, learning each other, learning how Bieniemy is in those situations, and vice versa. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I showed you actually in the group chat. They showed the offenses. They showed the offense that he was leaving and the offense that he's gaining. Now, obviously, Mahomes, head and shoulders above. That's a huge weapon to leave. Kelsey, number one tight end, huge weapon to leave. But then you start breaking down some of the rest of that offense that they had. Pacheco and McKinnon at running back. I think Gibson and Robinson, if they're not on the same level, they're a little bit better than them. Yep. And then they were showing me their wide receivers. They had Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm taking Terry all day over Juju Smith-Schuster. Period. That's just me personally. And then they looked at the other side and they were saying Valdez-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, McCole Hardman, all good in their own right, but they're that much better with Mahomes and the threat of Kelsey. Yeah. We got two guys in comparison to that, and Jahan Dobson and Samuels, that have proven they can take over a ball game. Mm-hmm. So honestly, and I get the Kelsey and Mahomes thing, definitely lift their average up. But I think in the grand scheme of things, and X factor, we don't know how Sam Howell's going to be. I think in the grand scheme of things, he ain't dropping too far down with offensive production, and he might. And none of our guys have egos. You know what I mean? Not saying Mahomes has the ego or Kelsey, but I would understand if they would. Right. I mean, they're obviously the best players in the league. So, but we got guys that hopefully are ready to learn, ready to work on it. And I'm just loving Bieniemy, first year OC in Washington, Sam Howell, truly first year quarterback in Washington, them meshing together. Woo! Mm-hmm. Come on now. I'm hyped about that. Absolutely.
Yep. It's great. That's what I'm saying. It's like I never thought Ron would be able to get a home run higher with this. Like you said, who would have thought this would be a place that someone of his caliber would want to come to? Because it brings a lot of opportunity. And like you said, we have weapons. There are individual skill players that he can now play with and toy around with and really, bring out their best. So I'm with you. I'm extremely excited about that opportunity.
Oh yeah. Now, you have any more excitement? I mean, I don't want to pour out all of our excitement too early.
I know. Nope.
we got to temper our expectations because we are watching the Football Weekly and we are realistic, ladies and gentlemen. We are absolutely realistic. So we do want to give you a little bit of our concerns. Will, I'm going to come to you first. It's a great move. We're excited, but he ain't really been a coach all that long. I mean, OC, in this position. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think the concerns are the obvious ones. It's the fact that he has been interviewing for head coaching opportunities and he's been getting passed up. And I think there's absolutely anyone that is on the side of this is ridiculous that he had to take another offensive coordinator. I agree with them, but I also think he's had opportunities to win an interview and he hasn't, and he's gotten passed over, by folks who, he lost to Lovie Smith for the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
But did he lose that though? Did he lose because he got a championship and Lovey's unemployed?
Right. Yeah. So he didn't get a job. Lovey got a job over him, So it's like, it's also, I'm kind of looking around as like, well, there were some opportunities that you didn't get,
Right.
So I think the concerns that are obvious are obviously something we need to look into. But I think there's, I'm kind of looking at it hopefully where it's like this gives him a chance to almost, he's the assistant head coach, so he's getting the opportunity to run an entire side of the team to be determining who does he want in place, who does he want to have. Do you want to talk about the LaShawn McCoy stuff?
Yeah, those were my concern. It is. And I can relate. I've talked to you multiple times. When you are so in tuned with what you're doing, be it offense, be it the shows, building the whole brand or whatever, a lot of times people could confuse that with you kind of being rude or with you kind of, not being caring or considerate or something, when at the same time it's you focusing hard on what you see. You are locked in on the path. You're ready to go. So I don't know if you guys have known, I was talking to Will about this before, but not everybody has been having glowing reviews about Eric Beiniemy. Now, there have been some great guys like Adrian Peterson, had nothing but great things to say. Jamal Charles, he loved him when when they spent time together, when he coached them. Even a little known guy named Chanderick West.
I know who you're talking about, yeah.
Little unknown guy, kind of similar to McKinnon and Pacheco. Nobody really looks at this guy, but in the offense, working under him, really elevated his game so much so that he was almost, looked at for a Pro Bowl in that year. But then there's other people that may not have those same feelings. And, we talked about this, that LaShawn Shady McCoy was very vocal about not liking the way Eric Beiniemy coached, and another guy that had the exact same feelings, Le'Veon Bell. They didn't like the way he coached, and a lot of that was he's on you, and not only in the game but also in practice. You know what I mean? He's about you running every single rep. He's about you running the play, and if you're not getting it right, he wants to know what you're seeing. He's so dialed in that he's focused on, okay, I've seen it from this. What did you see in this? And if we're not on the same page talking about what we saw, get out of here. They one of the things they said is that he's thrown guys out of practice. With us, with a young team, hopefully that's great. Light a fire under them. I absolutely
focused.
But if you look at those two guys, that's Shady McCoy, who is highly touted as a very, very legit back, all pro, and then Le'Veon Bell, who had that same, in his era when he was at his height, was in that same notoriety. And these guys who were bell cows, they are number one and done. They weren't feeling his coaching style. They weren't feeling the way he did things. And I can't speak directly to what they weren't feeling. Maybe it was him that he was just riding them too much, or maybe it was at that point in their career, because both of them came to him late in their career. And you've been around the block, people have been telling you have all these accolades. Sometimes you want to come to practice in a golf cart and just chill on the side and let the other ones get the reps. You know what I mean? So we don't know exactly what it was. But that's a little bit of my concerns. Will, what are your thoughts, man?
I think LaShawn McCoy is correct in what he said, and I believe him in his concerns about Eric Beiniemy. I also believe that LaShawn McCoy was in the last year of his career, Or it was, like you said, at the very end with Le'Veon Bell. It probably was not the same running back that he was in Philadelphia, which was an all-pro. And so he maybe didn't have the same abilities. And so he did get coached a little harder. Or maybe he didn't get as many liberties, throughout the week because he was no longer the superstar of the team. And that went away. So I believe him. I also believe him when he says that time that Eric Beiniemy was it was Andy Reid's team, and Eric Beiniemy was in the room but not talking. He's probably correct because Bieniemy spent 2 years as the running backs coach in Kansas City, then 3 years as the offensive coordinator. I would bet what you saw him as offensive coordinator in year one versus what you saw as offensive coordinator in 2022 looked a lot different. I would imagine when he was coming in as replacing Matt Nagy, Andy Reid was also going to be setting the tone to say, this is what I want to see. This is how we're going to run this team. And that gets me excited. I'm okay with the fact he had to kind of, he got more responsibility as he went on, as Andy Reid got comfortable saying, yep, I'm going to let you take over. I'm going to let you come up with the Super Bowl adjustments in the second half, or I'm going to take your recommendations. So clearly things have changed since 2019. So I have no doubt that what LaShawn McCoy said was correct. But that doesn't mean that it still applies to 2023, Right. I was listening to a pod. Brad Childress, the head coach of the Vikings, was on it, and he said that they brought over Chester Taylor from the Ravens, and Chester showed up in like gym shorts on Wednesday, and Bieniemy said, "What are you doing? We're practicing," and he's like, "I'm the starting running back," and he was like, "Yes, you are. Get your pads on. Get out there." Yep. And he's like, "It's Wednesday, and we're practicing, and we're putting in the installs, and I want you out there. This isn't." Yep. And he said, "He goes, I don't know what you did in Baltimore, but we're not going to do that here." Yep. So I think there's a little bit of accountability is never a bad thing. And like you said, we've got some young guys, some young talent. Let's teach them the right way. Let's from the get go. And I think the concerns are real. I understand what McCoy was saying and all that, but I really feel like what overshadows it is who he's been learning from, a Hall of Fame coach. So my optimism is high that he's learned a trick or two in his time in Kansas City.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But now being honest, like we are, that lends to the other thing that really concerns us is exactly what Shady was saying, is that it was Andy Reid's team. And, it's no secret that, Andy Reid was the one calling the plays. You know what I mean? Andy Reid was the one who had the control of that team. So it does beg the question, what are we really getting in here? Are we getting somebody that was just good for, management, and he just helped out and, he got to put his 2 cents in, but everybody knew where their bread was buttered with, Andy Reid? You know what I mean? Like, is this going to be, and I wrote this in my notes, is this going to be a Josh McDaniel or Matt Patricia type deal where once they get away from, the source of all their, smarts and all their, strength, then all of a sudden they can't turn it around. They can't get it done elsewhere. You know what I mean? So that definitely definitely something I want to focus on because, you're super excited for this and everything, but we have problems in our own right. You know what I mean? So when you have a guy like this come in and he has all these accolades and everything like that, you wonder, is he going to bring that necessary change, or are we dealing with things that, is bigger than him?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it might be even head coach, DC, other members of the coaching staff that might need to go. So right. it does make you think. I'm wondering, okay, how good is he going to be without Andy Reid? And you've said it multiple times about, coaches that came from Reid, they can be good. They don't necessarily have the same success that he's had. Right. So let's see what that does. Do you have any other concerns about what you think?
Well, I mean, I was just kind of thinking about what you talked about, and you're absolutely right. And it's a valid point. I guess I would say it's no different, though, if you were to be promoting anybody, I mean, how is it any different than D'Amico Ryans took the passing game coordinator of the 49ers with him? So now he's calling plays for the first time. You know, Scott Turner came to Washington as the offensive coordinator. He's calling plays for the first time. Yeah. Kevin O'Connell, got elevated when under Jay Gruden, and then he got elevated when Gruden was fired, and he started calling plays, for Bill Callahan. So it is a natural progression as well. There are other teams out there that are promoting people to do this. If Philly promotes their quarterbacks coach, who's lauded, great, quarterbacks coach Brian Johnson to offensive coordinator, he's going to be doing the same thing, So it's we're not the only ones. It's valid that this has been Andy Reid's team, and so he's been doing it. Yes, you're right, but that was Kyle Shanahan's team. Was Bobby Slowick doing it? No, as well. But are they exposed to the brain? Are they exposed to seeing the way they operate, or how this play sets up this play, or this is why we do things? And that's an absolutely yes. This is why it's an exciting opportunity for him, and it's hard to say, but it's also a slight elevation opportunity for him because this is your offense, and you know how Ron Rivera is. He's a CEO type coach, so he lets Jack Del Rio do his thing on defense, and he let Scott Turner do his thing until he wasn't doing it right, and he had to step in the room. So he's just going to hand him the keys and say, "Okay, here's the offense, go." So he does get that opportunity to put his stamp down.
I'm excited to see that.
Nathan's joining us. But you missed all what we said, buddy.
So that concerns me a little bit. But like you said, I mean, this could be the opportunity, and like you said, this is literally like fresh clay. Like we have almost a whole new thing. We got a couple guys that are a couple year vets, but they're not. Nobody's 5 to 10 year veterans that we really have. Like he really has the opportunity to kind of mold these guys together. So hopefully we get it. Hopefully, everything that we're concerned about is out the window, and our excitement is the truth about the matter. But hey, look, with those concerns, there's other positives that come with it. There's also other negatives. We don't know who he might potentially bring in with him. I mean, we don't know what coaches or what, players, which we'll get into that. But, let's take a look at some of these staff changes. I know there's been a couple of guys that, went on. I know Jim Hostler went on. I think our wide receivers coach, Drew Terrell. I know he was interviewing with the Arizona job. I don't know if he got the Arizona job.
I don't know if it's official yet, but I think the assumption is he's going to become their passing game coordinator.
Yeah. So, what other coaches do you know are leaving or potentially coming?
This is what's going to be kind of exciting. So there's a press conference tomorrow to introduce Eric Beiniemy, and we'll learn then, is he bringing anybody else with him? So it does look like, special assistant coach, special offensive analyst, it has moved on. So that could be an opportunity for him to bring in someone that he knows. The wide receiver coach, good chance that's going to be open. There's a rumor going around that we are hiring Stanford's offensive coordinator. His name is Tavita Pritchard. Okay. I don't know anything about him, so I can't talk about him. I was just looking him up as you were introducing this, and apparently he was a starting quarterback at Stanford. Then he got hurt, and a guy by the name of Andrew Luck came in, and the guy never played again.
Well, it happens.
But there, from what I did see when I saw the rumor, they said, he's got a pretty good reputation with quarterbacks, which means what would that mean for Ken Zampese, who's there and has worked with Sam Howell. Maybe he goes into a passing game coordinator role. But so it'll be interesting to see. But that's what we know of right now. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. We like our offensive line coach, John Matsko, but what if he says, no, I want to bring in someone else because I need an offensive line to be taught this way, and this is who I want to bring it in. Running backs coach Randy Jordan has been here for a couple of years. I think he came from Gruden's staff and stayed on. So he's been here a while. But it could, same thing. Bieniemy, being a running backs coach, may say, here's a guy who I want to bring in. So this is what we don't know, and that's what's going to be kind of fun to see. What does he want to do? Because again, like I said, he's being given the keys. And say, okay, go do it.
Yeah. And like you said, like, tomorrow we'll see. So kind of we're in limbo till the opening presser tomorrow, where Bieniemy, lets us know who he's bringing in, how he feels, and a lot of things are gonna come out. I think John Keim's gonna do a special little podcast tomorrow after, and
you like that John Keim guy?
Oh yeah, I was listening to him. I heard that little point you was making. I was like, oh yeah, I heard that too. I heard that one too. Yeah. So it's exciting. It's definitely exciting to see what changes will be made. A lot of this, like I said, we'll have to wait till tomorrow to see. But the winds are a changing. The winds are a changing. Nathan said, "Will Eric have a say on what he wants for the offense?" Yes.
Yeah. I mean, Ron is a CEO type head coach, and he's handing him the keys.
So, and this, like we said, this is going to be like a hopefully fresh new offense if he brings it in, similar to like a little West Coast, high percentage passes, quick passes. You know what I mean? You talked about that RPO, bringing that back. Things that are just a high percentage for Sam Howell.
Yes.
Just like you said, those first couple years of Mahomes, what did they do, and what can you emulate in this go around with Sam Howell? That's okay. Here we go. Let's quick out of your hands, quick, get to the line, quick, hand it up. Stuff that keeps that defense on its heels. And also there's coaches and also players that might come. Now, I'm gonna say this, man. Like, we've seen that they could use just about anybody. Flipping Kadarius Toney hadn't done anything in the league, and then all of a sudden gets a touchdown and a 65-yard punt return. For them. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen the McCole Hardmans who albeit are speedy, lights out as far as speed, but nobody's picking him first, on the draft. He's not even, up there. They brought in Valdez-Scantling. But just pieces, different pieces. They fill in and they're able to use. Is there any potential, maybe linemen, maybe other positions that might come from KC?
Now, this is all speculation, and this is all me just looking at who the Chiefs have as free agents that it might be like, okay, so let's who could be someone that would be interested in joining him. One of the guys I'm looking at is they've got their right tackle, Andrew Wiley, is a free agent. Could that be someone where he says, yeah, he was good with us, we can bring him over. I don't know how expensive he'd be. You could slide Cosme over to right guard. It may be something where he says, this is someone, I would love to have him, join me. But the one guy I'm looking at is a wide receiver by the name of Justin Watson. He burned us in the preseason game. He burned Cam Curl on it too, but he's 6'2", 215. So okay. Cam Sims, go.
Bye-bye.
Justin Watson, come on in. And I'm going to say, I'm going to say, hey, Watson, you've got a spot to be the number 4 wide receiver on this team. You've got a spot to be our possession and red zone threat.
Diami, your days are numbered.
It's like,
I'm going to say.
So they really are, especially like you say, he can plug and play all kinds of receivers. So that will be interesting. I mean, I think it will be curious what happens at running back. Does he bring over, a lesser, not to take carries away from Robinson, but does a Ronald Jones want to follow him, here? Does a Jerick McKinnon want to come in? And we don't really know what's going on with J.D. McKissick and the fact that he's had 2 neck injuries end his seasons. Like, would it be something there where it could be like, okay, let's, this guy can be a similar type player. So I'm just speculating. I think it will be interesting to see. Every time there's a coaching change of some sort, somebody comes in, to help out. I don't know. Would Chase Daniel unretire and say, I'll help you that, your on-field coach for Sam Howell. Who knows? And his career in Washington, same place he started it.
Look, after there's only 2 quarterback jerseys that I've ever gotten. One is Doug Williams. The other is my guy, Sam Howell from North Carolina. But there is a third that through a preseason, I was ready to get that Chase Daniel. I mean, I believed I was on the Chase train, the real Chase. All right. Chase Daniel was a guy carved out a great backup career for himself. You know what I mean? But that would be great. And I mean, look, to your point on that, look what he did with Henny. You know what I mean? And he got himself, 2 rings, and he's been able to come in when necessary, and he worked well with him. Yeah. You know what I mean? And Nate asked this question. He says, do you think Eric's could fix Carson if they keep him? I don't think. Do you think there's any shot that they keep him?
No, we need that money. No,
I was about to say.
No, we need that money.
Now, but to answer that question, by chance, if they do keep him and they make it a competition, or maybe you have Carson out there, I would hate that. But do you think he could work with somebody like that, or is Carson too far gone based on what we've seen?
I think that relationship is so bad that I wouldn't think we would want to do it. They may bring out the batteries at FedEx.
I gotta show you this on the replay, because the camera freezing is killing me, because it froze when you did this. So it just has your face all turned up.
Do I need to repeat what I said, or did the audio come through?
No, audio's good. Yeah,
gotcha.
I think he's on his way out. And I think, to be quite honest with you, I think one of the reasons he did come was because we have a young team. We have a young team that's impressionable, that's ready to learn, that want to get their shot. And I'm sorry, man. If a multi-billion-dollar, multi-million-dollar CEO comes in to talk to me, I'm going to pull up a chair and listen. And likewise, if a guy that has been playing till January, February every year for the last 5 years, our coaches every year for the last 5 years, and has helped to get his team to 2 out of 3 Super Bowls, I'm going to pull up a chair and listen. So hopefully that's what these guys do. And being that they have younger guys, hey, hope they fall in line and they listen up, man. They listen up. All right, man, we're going to take a quick little breather. This is the first time we're running this little transition all day, but we're going to end it off by talking a little Daron Payne. We'll be right back.
Dun, 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 dun.
Let's go. The Washington Commanders. There it is. Yeah, buddy. You know what it is. It's your boy Sean Spencer and my guy over here, Mr. Will Kramer. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wentz is too old for the young legs on the team. He's
let's
gone
hope,
next year. Man,
we want that $26 million. That's what we need right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But look, let's get into it today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you did not know, today in the NFL is the first day that you're able to franchise tag your players, which means you sit there and you put the franchise tag on them, which means they get the average. What is it? The average of
the top 5 players at the position, yeah.
At that position, yeah. So he'd go make about 19 mil.
19, yeah.
That's rough. That's rough. And so obviously there have been a lot of rumors that he will be tagged. Will, what are your thoughts, man? This is part of the little idea you had, which was to tag him and then trade him. So part of your plan is at work.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, if you're tagging him because this now opens up your chance to trade him before the draft, I'm good with this. Yeah. I like this. I mean, like you said, it does allow you to, if they were to tag him, this is a rumor that they're going to tag him. It came out, a couple of different people posted it today, a couple of journalists, not fans. I think it's really expensive. I sit here and say, like, well, I mean, I love the tandem up the middle. I think it's great. But my concern is if you franchise him next year, you're making a decision on Payne, Sweat, and depending on what happens with Chase Young, if they don't pick up his 5th-year option, you're making a choice on 3 players. Like you're kicking that can down the road for the next coach, I guess is what Ron could be doing. So I have my concerns about that, unless they're using this as we've got him, now we can negotiate something, about going, later, making a trade. Because I just worry if he's on our roster at $19 million, as much as a great tandem he is with Allen, is that going to be taking up too much of the roster for us to add some other pieces? Or can we be utilizing, when Jack and I were going through the how would we fix the defense, we said we would put that money towards a linebacker and an offensive lineman, one of each. Take if you can be getting those guys for 10 to 15 million, each, whatever you're making the contract, but utilize what you could be paying for Daron Payne and some of whatever you have left over through the Carson release and just other cat money to put into two other positions that we need. So I don't know if I'll be happy about that, but more importantly, I think Daron Payne would be furious if he's having to play on another 1-year deal. And I just wonder what type of player you're going to get, because Ron said, prove it to me and you'll get rewarded. Well, he just proved it.
He did.
Now you're going to ask him to do that again? So I don't know. I worry about that.
Oh, yeah. And there have been rumors about other places. I know Alex was telling me Detroit, they need some interior line help. So there are other places that will most certainly pay this man what he's looking for.
Yeah, I want to jump because Nate's putting some comments about like what a contract. I think there's no way that a long-term deal contract is going to be given to Daron Payne with Dan Snyder as the owner, because he has to put the guaranteed money up. Yep. And if he's selling this team, if that is actually happening, I don't see him being willing to put in $50 million check. Bam, let me just take whatever I'm losing in my sale of the team by $50 million because I have to put this in an earnest account for this long-term deal. So and that could be, the team's strategy is, well, if we franchise tag him, we can kick that can down till we get closer to, free agency to decide, are we able to sign this guy to a long-term deal, or do we need to be dealing him? It was good points by Nate, and he's right. You can make some, cat-friendly deals, but it's more about the fact that I just don't see Snyder putting down that money.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, back to what you were saying earlier, and I think Anton asked the right question. Is it rough enough that we aren't paying him? Is he worth the risk? And I think that's what it's coming down to. It's like you said. We said Ron said you'd get rewarded after you played well. He had over 10 sacks, at 11.5 sacks. Was a Pro Bowler on our team. I mean, I don't know what else you need to ask a man to do. You know what I mean? And obviously was our biggest threat for most of this year. I mean, even rivaled Jonathan Allen in that. He's going to want and maybe is deserved to play himself into that contract. But then on the same side, you go to Zeke and Dallas. You go to a lot of these guys that get that paycheck, and then all of a sudden you coming into camp 30 pounds heavier, and then you ain't been the same since. So that is the risk. There's definitely a risk in trying to make this move, because you're paying on the potential. He did great this last year but he also had a reason to do great this last year, because it is a business. Can he continue that now knowing I've been paid, I'm taken care of, I'm good, and there's not really any real chance of me getting kicked out if you are paying me all this money. So
right.
It's interesting. It is definitely a risk, though. So
yeah. And I mean, I guess part of me would look at, they're going to know, there's always tampering and, that goes on. And when it comes to, when the combine happens is where some of these free agent deals actually start to take place that we don't know about, that we hear, day one. And I mean, I would say this, the only way I'm okay with them tagging Daron Payne is if one of two things are happening. The first one is their goal is to make a trade before the draft and get something back for him. So that'd be the first one. Or they know that the other ways for them to fix this roster aren't going to happen. Like if you're not going to be able to get Terrell Edmonds, and if you're not going to be able to get a starting tackle, offensive tackle, then if they say, well, we're going to have $31 million, we need to have a quality team. If they say having our, one of our best players back is going to make our defense that much better, then I guess I would say, okay, I understand it. I really do think, that they're just kicking the can down the road if they're just tagging him, though.
And also, it almost makes you think of the Brandon Sheriff situation. You know what I mean? Where we had him, and it was like, well, do you pay him? Do you pay him that 18 or 19 mil, or do you tag him? And we ended up tagging him, and then we saw that next year he wasn't going to get tagged again. He wanted out, and as you've seen, he went over to Jacksonville. So,
and like played phenomenal.
Yes,
and made the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, and stayed healthy. How about that?
And stayed healthy. And guess what we're having to do now this year? revamp our offensive line.
Right.
I know there's only so many dollars, but yeah.
And so, I mean, look, at the end of the day, the X factor, and one of the things that we've talked about a lot is that we drafted somebody for this very position, Fadarius Mathis out of Alabama. We drafted him. He was not able to last a full game before he got hurt and he was out for the year. So we really don't know what we can expect from him coming in. And, we talk about that he has a lot of that quick twitch. Daron Payne changed from being just somebody that solidifies the line and is a run stopper to actually being a threat in rushing the quarterback and getting them off their cues. How many times did he come around on a twist or on a stunt and come around and hit the quarterback that was trying to scramble out, So he's shown how effective he can be. And when you break down having like cornerstones to a team, if our D line is that cornerstone, I think we need to put that money into him personally, but at the same time, we do have a guy, Fadarius Mathis, that we're hoping to at least come close to equaling that production. And then you have Ridgeway who played up this year. So, and we talked about it. And this is the fun part. Nathan said in here, the offseason is the best part. This is the fun part where we can start to pick and choose, okay, where do we want to go? We know my Ioannidis is just down 95 at Carolina. You know what I mean? The guy that he wanted out because of Sam Mills III, but he actually didn't want out. We said we were going to keep him, and then we got Carson Wentz, and then he wanted to throw about that. Yeah. All right. So, who knows if those bridges aren't burned and, Dan Snyder's down, maybe he'll come back for a cheaper price, and we know how good he can be in Washington. So,
right.
There's a lot of moves and there's a lot of stuff to try to figure out bits and pieces. But this is an interesting part, man, because the fan side of you is like, man, he balled out this year, man. I can't see the team without him. Yeah,
I can't see this defense without him. He's been here 5 years.
Right. You know what I mean? And look, don't reduce his time here to the Dallas game from a year ago where him and Jonathan Allen are, throwing blood. It was rough. Everything. We had a guy that they didn't even know his name in the introductions. Yeah. They just had a picture of him. You know what I mean?
That COVID ending really kind of deflated everybody.
Yeah, it was definitely rough. So hopefully we do keep him. But like you said, he's not going to want to be franchise tagged, and especially if he has other suitors out there. And this free agency and all that stuff hasn't occurred yet. But who knows? We don't know anything about the tampering or if that ended up happening, whatever. But you don't know if he's been in communications with other players or other teams or other, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Who says he doesn't hit up Tim Settle? Remember a couple years ago we were talking about Tim Settle being here. He goes up to Buffalo. They've had a reasonable amount of success. McKissick was that close to going to Buffalo. Unfortunately, he stayed and got hurt. We don't know what happened to him out there. So, there's a couple teams, Buffalo, Baltimore, Detroit, that are around the way that are interested for sure and that need that help at that spot. So, I mean, back to Anton's point, asking, will it benefit it? Yeah, it definitely could. If we play this right, if we get some pieces, maybe some draft lottery, maybe some caps out of it, that could definitely benefit us going down the line. My only issue is let's have a direction. You know what I mean? I feel like we've had a tendency to start tagging these guys and tagging them, and we're trying to, okay, well, do we want to keep you here? We're not showing that we're invested. Let's either make the move to show that we're invested into these guys, or it's a business, cut ties and keep moving. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because if you're playing this limbo, we already don't, obviously because of Dan Snyder, but even in-house, we don't have the best reputation as far as treating players and everything. Landon Collins and Matt Ioannidis are two prime examples where we said, hey, we're going to fit you guys in. We're going to get you guys. We want to keep you here. And then all of a sudden they find out, hey, well, actually, we got to let you go. Yeah. You know what I mean? Players talk and they go to different places and they talk. They don't want to deal with that stuff. So,
Well, and Anton was asking about, like, what would we try and get back? The compensation for Daron Payne would be a compensatory third-round pick next year, which means that's essentially a fourth-round pick next year if he leaves and signs elsewhere. If we don't franchise You tag him this year and pick his replacement, or pick a defensive end, or who's going to replace Montez Sweat or Chase Young. Pick a guard, pick a get a player that at a position that we really, really need as well. So yeah, that's why the tag and trade is the best option for us if we're able to do that.
Oh, absolutely. So, man, we shall see. But like we said, this is the time of the year when all this stuff comes out. All these new moves, all these, decisions to be made, where the money is going to go, who's staying, who's going. We see Eric Beiniemy is here. We are super excited about that. Stay tuned tomorrow for his press conference. So we'll see if he's bringing potentially any coaches. And the next coming days, we'll notice if he's bringing any players, anybody trying to follow him to Washington. And just for everything that's about to go down, let's just see who else gets franchise tagged, if that, in Washington, and what directions we're kind of leaning in. And when Mr. Carson Wentz leaves, because he's still technically with us. So let's get him out if we're going to get him out. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and do that. Oh, man. Yo, we appreciate you guys watching us. Cousins, Collins, Sheriff. Yep. Yeah, all those guys. Well, I don't think they hit Collins with the franchise tag, but definitely Sheriff and Cousins. They hit them with the franchise taggers, and we saw how both of those things ended up. Mm-hmm. So, ladies and gentlemen, we so appreciate you guys being here with us. Andrew, Nathan, Anton. Appreciate you guys jumping in these comments, talking to us. We're going to be with you all off season, bringing you into the draft, bringing you back to the regular season and into our 2023 Super Bowl run. Left hand up.
Left hand up.
Let's get it. Yo, for myself, Mr. Sean Spencer, that's my guy over there, Mr. Will Kramer. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon. And peace, people. Yeah. Hail Commanders. Let's get it.
Stand up.